Hey, Scott Murray here, Level 5 Tools. I want to talk to you about our whole joint knife series. Again, I've made millions of joint knives over the course of my career for a lot of different brands, but the whole hand tool effort, again, we set out to make the best possible product at a fair price. So I want to share with you some of the key features of the joint knives. First, I'm just going to show you our bi-material knife. I mean, again, we've got both carbon steel, stainless steel, everywhere from 1.5 up to 10-inch. But the key with a good joint knife is getting that hollow grind. And again, you can see this flex point right here. So this blade actually goes from about 1.2 millimeters down to about 0.7, 0.8, and then goes back up thicker at the very bottom. Because when you got that against the wall, you want your bend to be down here in the middle of the blade versus up here into the handle. The other key thing, and you'll see this when we start talking about our welded knives, is our tang goes the whole way to the bottom of the hang hole. A lot of competitive knives, you'll see they've got a very short tang, almost like you see on the inside of this welded knife right here. You can see the actual barbs on this knife and this knife. They basically manufacture a similar type of handle, and then they'll shove that really short tang up into this bi-material handle. So over time, that's going to come loose. The reason we go the full length is we want far more distribution of stress across a longer tang, which is going to give you a longer wear knife on your or longer wear on your joint knife. So again, all of our bi-material stainless steel stuff is going to have a lifetime warranty. Is it going to last you a lifetime if you push it every day? Probably not, but you know what? We're going to be there for the benefit of the finisher for the long term. So again, key things are having that right flex at the right spot of that blade, and then having the right type of polish on that. And you can see that polishing is absolutely beautiful across the board on all of our knives. You probably see Robbie's reflection there in the knife. It's so nice and shiny. So the next thing I'm going to talk about is our welded knives. I take a lot of pride in this. We could have made a welded knife 2.5, 3 years ago, because I know how to make them, I knew where to make them, but I wanted to make them better than anybody ever did. So we spent a lot of time in design, engineering, and testing, and what we have now is the strongest welded knife on earth. You call it one piece, it's actually about 5 pieces put together. I'll show you that, but it is the strongest welded knife on earth. 17 steps it takes to manufacture this knife. So let's check this out. We're going to go through the manufacturing steps here. We start out by just stamping out a flat piece. That flat piece then gets stamped into a piece that's actually got the shape of the knife into it, okay? Then you've got to take that half and you've got to actually shave that half to make sure it is absolutely perfectly flat. So we've got 2 halves now that are perfectly flat across the inside. Then we come and we put the hang hole into that one half of that knife. Okay? Then we're going to come through and we put this small rivet on the inside of the knife, and that's going to be to create our support on the inside that the blade's going to slide through. Okay, this is where our support gets attached. So you can see when the blade's coming through, it's going to be held not only where it's welded at the front, it's going to be held in the middle, and it's also going to be held at the hang hole. This is a patent pending feature, unlike anything anyone else has ever done. So now we take those 2 halves as an assembly and we tack weld this at 4 specific points to make sure this is perfectly aligned. So you'll notice there's 4 very small tack welds in each one of those corners wherever to hold this assembly together. Then that assembly is put into a machine and it gets laser welded around the whole perimeter of that handle. So you can see now I've got a very, very strong, high tolerance handle assembly that I still don't have a hang hole. So that's step number 9. Then I go to step 10, where I actually take this full tang blade, and again, notice that full tang blade, and I tap that up inside. So I have to actually take this blade and I pound it through there, and then it also goes through the support that's in the middle of this handle. After that's done, we insert our hang hole through that assembly. So now I've got a very tight assembly that's got the hang hole inside of it as well. Okay, so this is what it'll look like after we've got that blade put in. This is what it looks like after I pound the hang hole through. You can see the hang hole actually will stick out a little bit on both sides of it. So I've got it laser welded, I've got my blade pounded in through the middle support, and I've also got my hang hole put through there. Now we start our welding processes. So now I'll do the curved surface welding. Another patent pending feature, displacing the stress of this knife across the curved surface gives us far more strength than the competition. Let's look at the competition real quick. You notice, again, a very narrow, thin, straight weld across each point of control. You also have no internal supports in any one of these knives. So when you start to bend that knife, this is going to put a lot of stress on that one singular weld, as this is going to start to move as well, which is going to create flex, and eventually it's going to create a failure in this product. We didn't want to do that. So we come back here, we've got that curved surface. Now we come back and we weld the hang hole. So the hang hole is now welded in place. So now I've got my solid structure across the board. You can begin to hear that's taking on that very, very solid, high performance structure. Again, once I come and I've welded that hang hole, I deburr the inside of that hang hole. And this is where we start to polish this up and bring it into that finished form. You can see here, this is a knife we just cut the top off of. You can see all the internal structure here and how solid this knife is built. This thing is built like a tank from bottom to top. You will get no flex on the internal structure of this handle when you're using this knife. You're going to get all your flex out here in the hollow grind, just like I showed you on that bimaterial knife. Then we come to step 16, where we finish all of our rough grinding. You can see that is pretty well starting to smooth out. And then from step 16 to step 17, there are 9 additional polishing steps that we go through to bring you this mirror polished, highest quality welded knife anywhere on earth. I assure you, you will not find a better product anywhere. For those of you that don't like the feature of this being a little slippery, you say, well, we've also come up with an innovation there. We've got these heat shrink grips. You slide it on the handle, take a heat gun to it, and it'll shrink right up around that handle nice and tight. Nice thing is, when you wear one out, you just go ahead and slip one on and replace it. These are under $5 for a 5-pack. Another great innovation that gives you a little bit more grip on that welded knife. Again, this is the highest quality welded knife anywhere on earth. We've spent 2 years plus designing and building this for the benefit of the finisher. Check us out at level5tools.com and welcome to the Red Zone.